Turn the lights back on. Wow. Retro electro tech. When real audio ruled the world.
Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Retro Ernest of Retro Electro Tech. And pardon the fact that I have to yell because the camera is pushed back and the camera has the mic built into it, so there you go. What I have going on here today is an unboxing for a customer that is outside of the US who purchased this piece of equipment here on the big auction site. So he wants me to, of course, go through and check it out and make sure everything is working as it is supposed to be working. And let's just start, first of all, by making sure there's a piece of equipment inside of this box, that the seller didn't just throw a big rock in a box, and which I'm sure is not the case, but you never know in this day and age. So what is it that is inside the box? It is an Onkyo or Onkyo, tomato, pick your pronunciation, stereo amplifier. And anyways, I'm just going to start twirling the box around here and let the customer kind of take a look and see what there is to see as far as the condition of the box, that it hasn't had the snot kicked out of it, you know, punctured or lacerated or whatever the case. And everything looks okay. Hopefully it's padded well in the inside and everything is intact. So that's about it. Let me go ahead and get to opening up the box and we will go from there. Okay, and thus far we have a box within a box, which is good, double-walled housing for the amplifier. So let me go ahead and get in here a little further and see what we have going on. Looks like we have a piece of like foam core here. Great. Pretty good, pretty good. So we have this piece of foam here, and we actually have what looks like the original styrofoam packing for the amplifier. So let me go ahead and get this thing pulled out and all that good stuff and see what there is to see. And in fact, here we have an Onkyo A as in Alpha 7090 integrated stereo amp, and I'm glad it is what it's supposed to be, because remember I mentioned there was an inner box. Well, on the flap of that box I noticed it said something about a Denon receiver, and I was hoping that you know, the seller didn't ship my customer the wrong piece of equipment. I would hate to get in the middle of that debacle. But anyways, it is what it's supposed to be. So anyways, let me start by just giving this a little spin here. It looks pretty good, actually, as far as the cosmetic condition. Actually, let me pull this little lazy Susan forward a little bit. There we go. So here we are around the back. Everything looks good, nothing looks damaged. All of the you know, the binding posts for the speakers and so forth look pretty good. It's supposed to have a 5 amp fuse in it. Let me see here what it's got. And if the fuses in fact are good. And let me see here. With my eyes, it's, let me see. And that is a 5 amp fuse. And it looks like it's intact. Let me just check it with the continuity. Let's see here. Yep, that's a good one. And we have a and we have the other 5 amp fuse here. Let me see. Okay, good, and that's intact. So we don't have a piece of equipment with the wrong fuses or blown fuses or what have you. And let me continue to kind of give it a little twirl here. Okay. And there you go. So let me get those fuses back in, and then I'm going to remove the cover and kind of take a look on the inside before performing a safe power up. Before moving on, one thing that I wanted to point out cosmetically is the switched receptacle here has this plastic chipped away. Not a big deal, but I wanted to point that out nonetheless. So let's go ahead and move on. And here we are with the cover off, obviously looking down into this vast metropolis of wiring and components. And I always do that, of course, perform that cursory inspection that I talk about so as to hopefully spot anything that jumps out at me and says, hey, don't power me up. Warning, warning, Will Robinson. Danger, danger, Will Robinson, or whatever. So, and everything looks pretty good. I don't see any wires dangling in the wind. I don't see any components that look like they're overheated or, you know, downright cooked or fractured, you know, split open. The caps that I can see anyways look pretty good. I don't see anything that's physically leaking, anything that looks bulged or whatever. And I'm going to turn this on its side in a moment and try to zoom down in here a little bit, but what looks like the tone board down in there has a pretty thick film, a residue of that greasy deoxit looking crap, and that's pretty common. You know, you get folks that try to remedy dirty controls, scratchy controls, so they go in there and without properly, you know, disassembling things, because I know it's a big job, but without disassembling things, moving boards out of the way, and so that they can properly access the openings of the switches and controls, they'll just start kind of spraying in there and just let all that garbage run down the board and all that, and that's what is going on here, which is not a good thing because you don't want all kinds of greasy residue and garbage just sitting there on the board waiting to cause problems, and you know, things start getting conductive, and you run the risk of shorting things out and causing other problems, and, you know, degradation of components and all that kind of stuff. The list goes on and on and on. So at this point, I don't know to what extent I'm going to be getting into this amp until I really start, you know, testing, like I said. So the one thing I do anticipate, though, is having to go in here and properly service the controls because of the fact that, you know, there's all that residue, that greasy crap all over the board down below there. I can almost bet that the controls weren't serviced, you know, to the extent that they should be serviced. And I've mentioned a million times already about, you know, a multi-flush cleaning, really gaining proper access into the ports of the potentiometers and, you know, the access holes of switches, and really getting in there and flushing them out, you know, under pressure, a good burst of contact cleaner, and you know, flush them out and work them and work them and work them and work them over and over and over again, and you know, and then repeat the process multiple times, and then after everything is done and everything you know, shows that it's responding favorably, of course, reintroduce the proper lubricant in the proper amount and work the controls some more and all that stuff. So that's the way it needs to be done at the very least. And sometimes with some controls, you obviously have to open up the potentiometer, go in there and perform a more in-depth cleaning, and all that can get pretty costly when you're talking about, you know, multiple controls and switches and all that, if things were so bad and, you know, they weren't responding favorably to a multi-flush cleaning. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but I'm just mentioning it, and I've talked about it in other videos. But again, you know, I have to repeat that kind of stuff because different people are tuning in and so forth, as well as the customer. So let me go ahead and move forward. Oh, and I just want to mention before moving on, as far as getting into more in-depth repair work or restorative work on this amp, if needed, because of my very, very heavy workload and just not having a whole lot of time, this unit would have to be shelved for a while before I could get to it. That's just, you know, that's just a fact of life right now, because I can't push everybody else's stuff out of the way and, you know, set this down ahead of everything else. And the main thing I wanted to do here was facilitate just being able to go through and perform an inspection, some function testing for the customer because of the fact that, you know, he bought it off the auction site. So I'm just kind of facilitating that, kind of a buffer between the seller and himself, and just, you know, to hopefully give this a good good bill of health. And he was told that this is working as it should, so we'll see. You know how that goes sometimes, though. But even just going in here and servicing the controls properly. Some of you may recall in more recent history, I had one of these A7090s in the shop here. So I'm familiar with disassembling this unit, and you know, the whole face assembly needs to be removed. These boards need to be removed to gain proper access to things, and that's a little bit of work there. And you can see if there was something really wrong with this, and I had to start pulling boards and, you know, removing the amp sections and all that. That's quite a bit of work. Everything is wire wrapped in here, and you know, of course, you know, this is definitely serviceable, but at a slow pace. It's not something you just rush through. You know, you don't go in here, you know, like a bull in a china shop, and it's not going to happen that way. So we'll see what there is to see. Now, I'm hoping for the customer's sake that this unit is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But again, going in here and performing a full bore recap and doing all that, if I'm going to go that route, it's going to have to be shelved, and it's going to be some time before I can move it forward to the bench and all that good stuff. So anyways, so what I'm going to do, like I said, is just get this powered up and have it on the current limiter for a while and see what it does, and then get a clean signal into it and see what's coming out of it, and make sure that everything's looking good. If everything's looking good and I got a you know, a good clean signal on both channels coming out, and you know, it's amplifying like it should, and you know, nothing looks distorted or, you know, otherwise exhibiting negative you know, sonic characteristics or whatever the case, and I think that that's really all there is to it, other than servicing the controls properly, like I said, and getting that board cleaned off. So let's go ahead and move forward. Also, I just wanted to take a moment to zoom in on the board that I was referring to a moment ago, so that I can hopefully show all of that oily residue that's on the board. You may or may not be able to tell based on the amount of detail that this camera is able to show zoomed in. But anyways, I ran this swab across the board just to put some streaks running down the board. You may be able to see that there, just to kind of give you an idea of how oily it is. So that's what I'm going to have to go in there and clean up and all that when I'm resurfacing the pots and switches. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So we have the amp or device under test plugged into a current limiter to do just that, limit the current in order to perform a safe power up. And let me pan on up to the current limiter. I know some of you have an interest in this stuff, and anyways, the white box you see up there with the 3 light bulbs, that's what the current limiter is. So why do we even want to limit the current? Well, if this amp has the kind of problems that are going to bring about a more serious failure, in other words, something that's going to try to short circuit, for example, it's going to want to draw heavy current to feed its destructive behavior, which is, I think, a simple way of putting it. So you might want to look at it this way. If you want to keep a small controlled fire under control, you're certainly not going to want to feed feed it an excess of fuel and let it get out of control and cause widespread damage, right? Right. So we're essentially starving this amp of fuel, or current in this case, by placing the appropriate bulbs or bulb filaments in line with the amp. Okay, so by doing that, it's going to provide resistance to such current flow and take the brunt of any heavy current draw. Beyond that explanation, I'm not going to go into a step-by-step demo because I've covered this topic in more detail previously, but here's what we can expect to see with the current limiter. So because I know nothing of this amp's history and its condition, you know, I have no way of knowing for certain how this amp is going to react. So I'm going to want to start by bringing in my lowest wattage bulb that I have in this current limiter, which is a 40 watt bulb, and it's really going to starve this amp of current because this is a big bruiser of an amp, okay? And as such, we have these four, you know, big reservoir caps here that are going to want to initially charge up, come up to speed, come up to charge, and in doing so, there's going to be that initial inrush current, and that's why the bulb in there, especially being that I'm going to be pulling in a low wattage bulb, it's going to glow really bright and really starve the amp of current, which is what I want. I'm deliberately doing that. And then I'm going to monitor that bulb. You're going to see it initially glow very bright. And then because it's such a low wattage bulb, it's going to stay fairly bright, but it still should come down just a bit. And I'm going to monitor that for a moment. And if it looks like it's really trying to run away, it's really trying to glow even brighter and brighter and all that, then I know we have something going on here. You just have to know how to read the bulb filaments when you're using a current limiter. So we probably won't even hear the protection relay kick in because an amp like this, an amp this size, you know, it's just going to be so starved of current that its normal functions, such as, you know, again, the protection relay kicking in and so forth, is just not going to happen. It's just not going to have enough fuel to do that. So, but that's good. I just want to monitor things for a moment, and then I'm going to bring in another bulb to feed it a little more current, and at that point we'll probably hear the relay kick in if everything is working as it should in that regard. So just listen out for that. So let me go ahead and start by bringing in the small bulb first. Okay. Okay, and that's dimmed it down a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to tell because of the way the camera deals with the exposure of that, in other words, is what I'm trying to say. But for the most part, here in person, the bulb looks good. The filament is glowing in a very stable manner. I don't see any surging, or it's not trying to, you know, brighten or run away or anything. So I'm going to monitor that just for a moment here, and then I'll come right back, and then we'll kick in bulb number 2 and see if we can get that relay to activate. Okay, things are doing fine so far. Let me bring in another bulb and see what there is to see. Now just listen out for a click. We'll probably get one. And there it is. And the bulb filaments are glowing nice and dim, so far anyways. So I'm going to monitor that for a bit, and then when I come back, I'm going to go ahead and start the function testing process and go from there. Okay, so I've had this amp sitting on the current limiter for about 20 minutes or so, not a single hiccup. So I removed it from the current limiter, and I want to see what this thing is doing in terms of output. And you can see here I have a 1 kilohertz tone from our function generator piped into the auxiliary inputs on this amp. We're hooked up to the scope. I have 2 1000 watt dummy load resistors that this amp is hooked up to. And everything is set flat, of course. You know, all the settings are where they need to be. So I'm going to start by just, let me actually zoom on over just a bit to the scope. Good enough. And I have, okay, let me just, okay, and there's our waveform. I have both waveforms from both channels sitting on top of each other. Pardon the noise in the back, the heater's coming on. And anyways, you can see that everything is looking nice and symmetrical, both of the channels. Okay, let me, okay, we're clipping there. Let me kind of pull it back just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. I have both of the channels sitting on top of each other. I'm just rotating the balance pot back and forth. So let me just get it right. Okay, there we are, clipping. Let me back it off just a bit. Okay. Now let me do a little math. All right, let me see here. Okay, divided by 8 and 123 watts per channel into 8 ohms. This amp is rated at 110 watts per channel into 8 ohms. So not bad at all. Not bad at all. So anyways, let me go ahead and do something else here. Okay, and as far as frequency response, everything is looking really good. I'm sweeping the audio spectrum from 20 Hertz to 20K, and the amplitude has remained consistent. There's no deviation worth noting, so not bad at all. So I'm going to perform some more testing off camera. In the interest of time, as I always say, I haven't even performed any adjustments on this amp yet as far as idle current or anything, and this thing is doing great. So what I am going to do though before ending this video is I will come back and we'll just do a quick audio test, and I'll pipe in some YouTube safe music and see what there is to see. So I will be right back. Okay, so before I start some music, I just want to mention that off camera I was listening to a commercially pressed CD, some good tunes, and this amp sounds really nice. What I have piped into it right now is just some YouTube music from their library, which in my opinion isn't all that great. I don't think the audio quality is really all that good. But anyways, it'll get the point across. And this isn't really to gauge the audio fidelity of this amp anyways, because the audio is being picked up by the microphone that's built into this camera. So need I say more? But you'll get the point, and just to see that it's working and what have you. So let me walk over to the CD player over here and hit the play button, and we're off to the races. Okay, so you get the point, and the monitors are over here anyway, so all the sound is coming from over yonder. So there you go. So I'm going to go through this amp some more. Of course, I have some adjustments to make aside from redoing the controls, servicing them and spraying them out, relubricating them, and doing a better job than what was done, getting that board cleaned up. And as I go through, I'm going to be checking some other things as well when I have access to different areas of this amp. So I can't fit everything into one video right now. It would be tremendously long. So I don't want to even venture down that road because of my schedule and what have you. But I just wanted to give the customer an idea of what's going on, what shape this amp is in, just so he can kind of anticipate. And what he has to look forward to, in other words. So unless I find something else, that's really about it for this one. I'm going to go through, of course, and check all the different inputs, get a turntable hooked up to this, do all this, that, and test all the various you know, functions and so forth. You know, a lot to do. So anyways, like I always say, guys, peace, love, music, and the vintage audio that brings it to your ears. Till next time, you guys take care of yourselves.
This is a poor man's shoe production.